Sure, I'll do Splender. What was that guy's name? Pierce? Weird list.
Hey, like, people kind of hated him.
Did they? I didn't read any of the comments. I'll have to go do that.
There was some conflict.
Wow.
One comment was like, I could never take an adult seriously who plays Monopoly. Like, okay. Well. What's happening, party people? Welcome to Punchboard Party. My name is Daniel, this is Father Greg, and we are coming back at you with a best of the month video. We're kind of back on this train. We're recording our April board games at the end of the month of April instead of in the middle or the end of the following month. So I'm very excited about this. So party people, please let us know in the comments down below what games you've been playing in April, what you've enjoyed, and what you think we'd like to play of what you've been playing. And let us know what you think about the games that we've played. So as you know, we go through all the games that we played in a particular month, and then we tell you which one we think was the best of the month. What kind of month was this like for you?
So this is a month where I played a lot of old games. I'll say a lot of games that I have not played. I don't know what inspired me this month, but I was pulling games off the shelf that I need to dust them off. There was some dust accumulating on them.
My month was crazy. It was a crazy board game month for me. I got in a lot of games. After Easter, got a big board game splurge, so I had a bunch of new games. We played some of them. There was a board game convention here in Saskatoon yesterday, so I was at that, so I played a bunch of games there. So got lots to talk about.
Right.
Okay, everybody, without any further ado, the first game that I played in April was Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition.
Wow.
Because we don't play Terraforming Mars in this house. We only play Ares Expedition because it is completely and totally different.
Is it?
So here's the thing with any Terraforming Mars game. Why has it got to be so long?
That's right.
Like it says on the box, Terraforming Mars is like 90 to 120 minutes. Mm-hmm. That easily takes people 3 to 4 hours to play sometimes.
Right.
It's just Ares Expedition, 60 minutes on the box. That's going to be 90 to 120 minutes. And I figured it out. You're sitting there with a mitt full of cards in your hand that all have so many different synergies that they could be working towards. People are just going to spend time. People are just going to spend time thinking. It's just a thinking game. And you know what? The thinking is fun.
Right.
And I'm having fun the whole time that I'm trying to work out all the machinations that I don't mind when someone else is taking a long time. Terraforming Mars is not something that hits the table often for me, but when it does, I always enjoy it, and I'm always looking for an opportunity to get to the table. It hinders me because I know it's going to be longer than it should be, and it feels like it should be like a beginning of the night game, but it is the main course, and I just have to deal with it. I love the kind of race for the galaxy kind of role selection that you do in this version, where you kind of indicate, okay, we're definitely going to be drawing cards this turn. We're definitely going to be whatever. And you see what other people put in there, and the round might be really short. You might just play a green card, and away you go. But, you haven't played this since we played it?
No, I haven't. It's very similar to Terraforming Mars, I think, at least. It doesn't have the board, of course, and whatever. The board's not a huge element to Terraforming Mars, but because of the extra little stuff that it adds, I probably prefer just the regular Terraforming Mars, but especially Ares Expedition. I think you could do Ares Expedition in an hour. You need people who know the cards.
Yes.
Like, once you get good at it...
100%.
Because on the app, I can play Terraforming Mars, the regular board game, in half an hour.
Yes, that's right.
Because you're just you just realize, oh yeah, I'm going green... Yes. Strategy, I'm getting as much plants as I can.
Yeah.
So you learn to just
microbes, baby.
That's
microbes.
Right. That's right. You just learn to get rid of cards.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas the first time that you play, you're like, this card is going to transform 1 energy into 4 heat. Okay. This card is gonna, it's just going through all of that. But yeah, when you get better, it certainly does speed up a little.
For sure. And I just don't play it enough to be at that speed yet.
That's right.
But I really enjoy it. Love that game.
Well, then I went to Marion Dallas's house, and I was expecting just a nice
Evening with real friends.
3-player games, yeah, with real friends, and then this guy showed up. What the hell?
I was legitimately invited. It's weird that Dallas kept that a secret from everybody. I just want to be clear about that. That's a weird thing to do.
So he had a few games that he wanted to show us, and the first game that he wanted to show us was Canar or Nar. Or something like that.
Yes, that's right.
This is a Viking game in which you are moving up, 1 or 2 tracks. It's kind of a race to a certain number. I think it's like 50 points.
Yeah.
You're taking these cards and you're putting them into, like, you're drafting these cards from this market, if you will.
Yeah.
And you're putting them into, like, certain columns based on their color and what they do and whatever. But then, like, you activate everything in that column. So if, like, whatever, it might give you 3 helmets and 2 gold and 1 victory point or whatever if you have a nice big column. But then at a certain point, you buy cards, but you have to spend cards from your little engine that you've built up in order to get those cards. But those cards give you some victory points as well. But there's this other track that just gives you victory points per turn. Just like every single turn, it comes around your turn, you're getting 1 victory point. Now you're getting 2 victory points a turn. Now you're getting 3. So it kind of speeds the game along as somebody advances really high on that track. Mm-hmm. They just start moving and moving and moving. Now we did get one rule a little bit wrong, which maybe made a little bit of a difference.
We got it totally wrong, and it changed everything. Huge complaint that we had about the game that basically was like, this game sucks. Like I still enjoyed it very much, but I also was like, I think it is broken. And then I read the rules again and was like, oh no, I broke it.
That's right. So there's these little tokens you can spend instead of cards. Yes. When you need to get rid of a card in your engine, you can like spend this token. And so it just felt like spending 3 or 4 or 5 cards from your engine to buy this card that was worth like 3 points just wasn't really that impactful.
Or 7.
But those costed a lot. Like the 7 cards cost like 5 cards from your engine or something like that. Whereas you could just move up this other track and be getting 5 points a turn.
Yes.
So it just felt like there was a lot to expend, but knowing that you can expend these tokens that are relatively easy to get. Instead of, your cards. You can only have 3 of them at a time. So even if you did have to discard 5, you'd still have to get rid of 2 cards.
Yes.
But it at least lowers the threshold of that burden a little bit.
What I would say in terms of mechanically what this game is like, a lot of people are comparing it to Splender. But if you've played Deus, that's the card activation thing that happens, where you play to a particular column, and then everything in that column activates and gives you resources. And there's some cool little limitation things where, like, at the beginning of a turn, you're playing a card from your hand into a card row, and then that color card that you played determines what card you're going to draw from the drafting row or whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I thought it was really neat. Kind of clipped along at a good pace. Mm-hmm. With that amendment, I think it would be a really balanced game. High recommend for me.
Right. Yeah, nice, like, small box, but relatively larger play experience.
Okay, so after Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, I played with Tim and Dustin went home. And Tim stayed for a nice little 2-player game of Challengers.
Okay.
I've talked about Challengers here a lot. It is just deck building, the game. And I just wanted to see what Tim thought of it, because he kind of likes deck building. And you know what? We had a nice little time. Tim ended up winning. I kind of caught myself in a bit of a loop where I was trying to do something. I was trying to do something different. So one of the mechanics in the game is that when your cards get defeated, so you play a card and then your opponent has to play a card or cards that equal to your card value or higher. And when they do, your card or cards go to your bench. And you only have so many slots on the bench. And then once the bench slots are full, you lose. So that's one of the ways that you lose in the game. But to avoid that, you can have you can have the same cards in your deck. Mm-hmm. And so the same card will go to the same bench spot. They'll share a bench spot. So I was trying to kind of mill for cards that were the same. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't do it. At the beginning of each turn, you have options of where you draft from, typically. Right. So you can draft from 1 card from the B deck or 2 more cards from the A deck. And so
The B
so
deck
forth.
being stronger.
The B deck being stronger.
Yeah.
So I kept on drafting 2 cards from the lower deck to try and get cards that were the same as cards that were already in my deck. And you know what? I didn't get smashed, but it didn't work out. Still a game I love going to, man. I just love this experience.
Well, the next game we played was not the game Dan brought, but a game that Dallas had, which is Raw. And this game, so this is like the new edition of Raw. They came out with a deluxe edition. I don't know why, because this game is already deluxe.
Yeah.
Like,
the Raw token, you could murder a man with it, right? You could just, bam!
That's right.
Raw!
You have to say that as you do
bludgeon
it.
him into that.
That's right. I really like Raw. Raw, for me, I don't know. It's just, there's not a lot of games like that. I think like kind of, sort of auction value based kind of bidding on things. Sort of like deciding when. Basically, there's like this card row that just kind of keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger until somebody decides they're going to like bet on it. And you have certain tokens, but like in the middle of one of the things you're betting on is another token. So there might be a really low token there. So like now you're spending your 12 to get a 3 back. And it's like, oh, now I'm going to have less spending power next turn.
Yes.
Right, and a lot of different things. And they're just cards, but each card works in a different way. Some cards stick with you to the end of the game. Some cards you score and then you get rid of them. Some cards you can swap for other cards and all different kinds of things. But just a really kind of, I don't know, a delightful little like game where I like that kind of tension that builds up. Should I go another card? Like, can I get away with another card being flipped? Because at a certain point, like these certain cards come out and they force an auction.
Yes.
To kind of take place, and so you're like, how long? There's a little bit like push your luck kind of, how many cards can I go? Especially if you're the last one, because each person gets to buy only 3 times.
That's right.
So if you're the last one, everyone else has bought. It's like it's yours. How far do you want to go? And it's just like, well, how far can I go before I hit that final one that just, because at a certain point it just ends and it's just like, sorry, you took too long, the round's over.
This play impressed 2 things upon me. This game plays really quick for the experience you get. You get a really great experience in a short play time. That is excellent. The second thing is that because of the raw tiles, the pot, if you will, never gets as big as you want it to. Like it does for some people.
Right.
It just doesn't for me.
That's right. Usually you're betting on like 3 tiles.
Yes. And you know what? It's fine. But sometimes I crave having the experience that some people get to have of winning, 5 or 6 tiles.
Right.
Okay, now this is a spotlight needs to be shone on this game. I played this game far and away more than any other game
This month. Wow.
And that's far away.
Okay.
See what I did there?
Yeah. Far. Yeah. Got it. Look at you.
Oh man. So far away. I think you gotta say it really fast because it's like one word.
Far away.
This is just a small footprint card game that plays in 15 to 25 minutes depending on if it's your first play or what, or who you're playing with, or that kind of thing, player count. But it has a really unique system that's hard to get your brain around, and I've failed to explain it to people every time.
It's so difficult. Yeah.
I try and explain it and they're just like, okay, and then they're playing and they're like, oh, that's not gonna work, is it? Like, no, it's not gonna work. So throughout the course of the game, you're going to play 8 cards in front of you from left to right. And then at the end of the game, you're going to score those cards from right to left. And so when you're scoring cards from right to left, the cards to the left of your cards are not going to help you score your cards.
Yeah, essentially every card has like a symbol on it as well as a scoring condition.
Yes.
But once you pick your 8 cards, you flip them all over.
Yes.
And then you start scoring from the right. So your far right card might be, if you have 4 acorns, get 12 points. And you're like, I do have 4 acorns. They're just on all these cards that are flipped upside down.
That's right. That's
so
right.
you can't score them.
So as you're playing the game, you have to keep in mind, this stuff that this card requires in order to score needs to be ahead of it as I'm playing. Like, but now the neat thing, and this is the genius thing about it, is there's these things called sanctuaries.
Right.
And so when you play a card that's higher than the card you previously played, then you're eligible to draw sanctuary cards. And then you draw a number of sanctuary cards equal to 1 plus the number of map symbols you have on your cards that are visible, which during the game is all of them. And then you look at those cards, you choose one to keep. And the sanctuary cards, they act like normal cards. They'll have the same colors, they'll have the same symbols, they'll have the same kind of scoring opportunities, but they're always going to be visible. So at the end of the game, they're going to be there. So a big part of the game is making sure that you have a lot of maps so that you can look at a lot of sanctuary cards, so that you can have your conditions of your lake cards fulfilled on the sanctuary cards, while your other conditions are filled by your other cards. You know?
Right.
I just love this game. It plays quick. It is a crunch. It's a real kind of mind puzzle, and it's proving to be a game where you can be better than other players. Like, it's not just, there is some luck involved in, because you draft cards each round that come out randomly, and so cards might come out that don't work to your strategy, but you can pivot and you can manipulate and you can make things work for you. I think this game is excellent, and it's gone over really well with most of the people I've played with.
I like this game. We played this in the same night as Nar and Raw, and I think for me that this was my favorite of those 3 experiences.
Yeah.
Just because it is a weird game. I like a game that just does something that's just out of the ordinary. It's like, this game is not like any other game that you've played. It has this, and it's this brain thing of like, yeah, okay, so hold on. I played this card. Okay, so I need to get 4 acorns that come after this thing, but how do I... Okay, but then this card comes in, and this card needs 2 of these symbols. And, well, I have one of those, but that's before. Okay, so I'm going to need to draw a sanctuary to fill it. And, like, just all the different ways that you try to work that on your mind is really fun.
It's really fun.
So I went over to Father Santos's house, nice. One of my good friends that began playing a lot of board games with. And I was like, I should bring some old classic games, to go and test this. And, you talked about... Terraforming Mars, you talked about some great deck builders, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to bring Dominion. And I played a game of Dominion, just base Dominion, like no expansions, just regular old, like original run of the mill, like first game setup, just cards and actions and a little bit of buying.
It's a festival.
It is, yeah, just a festival, baby. And actually we had a lot of fun with it. We liked it so much. We played it again the second time, and I was just like, it was like the first deck builder that I'd really introduced him to. So I was like, I'm going to introduce you like a whole new genre of game, right? It's like, it's hard to imagine, like, and maybe some people disagree that like Dominion was the first actual deck builder or whatever. Right. There's some like debate around that. But for all intents and purposes, like, when Dominion hit the scene, and like, it was like, whoa, this is a totally new gaming experience. Like, this is...
Whether it was the first or not, it changed the game.
Right? Like, it's just like, this is such a... And like, so many games have run with deck building since.
Yes.
And it's like, it's all because of Dominion, like, that had that initial, like, that cool feeling of, I start with this deck, and it's got 7 coppers and 3 estates, and it sucks.
Yes.
But like, as the game goes on, it gets better and better, and like...
Well, you nailed it when you said feeling. When I think of Dominion, I think about that feeling of this ramping up of these drawing cards and getting excited about what I can do now. And then if I buy this and this and this, then I can do that then. It just keeps on going. Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Love Dominion.
Okay, so played a few games with Sarah. We had a date night, and I brought out a few, smaller games that we could just kind of play together. And so we started the night off with That's Pretty Clever. Or Gone Clever. I've hated on this game.
I was going to say, this is a surprise.
I've hated on this game.
You pulled this game out?
Well, you know what? I've hated on it so much, and I was just looking for short, quick plays that we could kind of, just have some fun. And I was like, okay, that's a short play. May as well give it another... And like a short learn, too. And I was like, for the sake of the party people, let's see what I think about it now. And so Sarah and I were playing it. And she said, I have yet to see how this is clever.
Not just how it's clever. It's so clever.
So the title is misleading.
That's right.
It's not really all that clever, but it is a solid puzzle. So the main reason why I hated on this game before was I just it's hard for me to get into this roll and write because there's no theme.
That's right.
It doesn't pretend to have a theme. It's just a number puzzle. It's basically a crossword, a word search, a Sudoku. Like it's just one of those. And you're just playing with other people, filling in your rows and your columns and get your thing. But once you kind of realize what it is fun. So okay, all I'll say is that there is some merit to Gauntlet Clever. It's still not going to hit the high echelons of my favorite roll and writes, but it's worth keeping in the collection because it plays lightning fast. So
Right. Yeah, and if you have fun, if you have friends that just enjoy writing down numbers on a page. If you have accountants in your like,
or someone with a subscription to the New York Times crossword puzzle.
Right. So the next game that I played was, hey, that's my fish.
You were digging deep into that well, boy.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. This month is gonna be a lot of deep dives. We're gonna be dumpster diving, baby.
I'm gonna have to find all new photos for things.
So
we're turning a new leaf.
That's right. Hey, That's My Fish is actually a game that I really do enjoy. I think it's a really fun little abstract strategy game where you're penguins, you're running across these ice floes, you're grabbing fish, but then the ice starts disappearing, so there's less spaces available, and sometimes you get marooned on a little island and you can't move anymore. So your little penguins just got nothing to do, and that's what you kind of want to do. You want to maroon everyone else on little islands and leave the big mega island to yourself and so on. But this game is Ragnarok's is just better.
Okay.
Because it takes less time to set up. It's very similar game experience, but Hey, That's My Fish has all these tiles that you need to set up on the board. Like they're hexagonal tiles, and you need to arrange like 50 of them into like a grid before you can play. And so the game takes like 5 minutes to set up and 5 minutes to play.
Right.
Whereas Ragnarok's has the same feel, except instead of removing ice, you're putting stones down and you're trying to like lead people into certain areas. So I love Hey, That's My Fish, but I probably could get rid of this game, and because I would just play Ragnarok's every time.
Interesting.
But yeah.
So next for Sarah and I, so this was a bit of a month for me of trying games that I had sort of panned in the past or had said maybe that's not for me.
Okay.
And I was giving them another chance. And so Patchwork hits the table.
Oh, wow.
Patchwork.
I'm not the only one bringing out some old classics here.
I know. Maybe there's a theme. Maybe there's a theme. So here's the deal. We all know my reputation for polyomino games.
Sure, you love them.
So I'm just not good at spatial reasoning in that way. It's just tough. But this time I said, you know what? I'm going to give it my level best. I'm going to try so hard. And so as we were playing this game, you know, you're going around, you're collecting buttons, you're spending buttons to pick up polyomino quilt pieces, you're putting them on the board, and there's this whole, again, like Nova Luna, which I think is better, I'll just say it. Nova Luna is head and shoulders above this game for me, but it has this kind of timing track where when you take a piece, it's going to tell you how much time it took you to kind of quilt that sew that onto your quilt, and you're going to move your token that makes spaces along this little track. And if you're the one behind, it's always going to be your turn next. But then you also have the option of if you're behind, you can move all the way to in front of your opponent and collect that many buttons as spaces you move. And buttons is currency, it's also points, and so there's that nice little tension there. If you're spending your points to get things, they'll get you more points. I meticulously was fitting things into other things. I was just working my way. I was like, and then time ran out. And I had a big old section that wasn't filled in. And every section is minus, like every square that's not filled in is minus 2 points at the end of the game.
Wow.
I still scored like minus 7 points.
You're really not good at these games.
I hate this game. No, to be fair, it's an excellent design. It's just, it's me, it's not the game.
It's been a long time since it's been, I don't know, 8-9 years maybe since I played Patchwork. Like, it's been a long time. Yeah, I almost completely forgot about this game. Right. When you said it, I was like, what game are you talking about? Just like roll through my memory bank. Oh, yeah. That's the one. Well, another game that I probably haven't played for 8 or 9 years was there was a time when Renegade Games was pumping out games like they were going out of business. Like they were releasing a new title every week, and there were these little like tiny little card boxes. But this game kind of got forgotten in the mix. Like it came out and it was it's a 2-player only game. It's just a deck of cards, and this game is The Blood of an Englishman.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And so this is the story of Jack and the Beanstalk and the Giant. So one player plays Jack and the other plays the Giant. And basically you just have a bunch of columns of cards, and each player has ways in which they can move cards around from stack to stack. Sometimes you move from like the top to the bottom, or you can move you can take a card out of the stack, but Jack is trying to get a golden goose and the golden, 4 golden things, the harp and the something else, and he's trying to get those 3 golden things, and then he's good. Meanwhile, the Giant is trying to get cards that say fee, fi, fo, fum, all to the bottom of the row. And if he gets fee, fi, fo, fum all the way to the bottom, he wins. So Jack...
Because he smells the blood of an Englishman.
That's right. That's right. So basically, the Jack moves like more cards, but like one at a time, whereas the Giant moves can just take like 4 cards in a stack and just like shift them over.
Okay.
So he's like bigger, but he does one action, so it's like more impactful, but he's a bit slower and lumber and so on. And so it's just like an asymmetrical kind of tete-a-tete, like, oh, you want that goose? So I'm going to move him to the back of the row. And even the Giant can eventually just take cards out. And so before Jack can get the golden goose or whatever, he needs to like build up a beanstalk high enough to like get into the heavens. And so you could just like, he has to build up like in ascending order, but he doesn't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He just has to like get 6 cards that go from 1 to 9 in ascending order. But if you take away like all of the 7s, well, now like Jack has fewer options. Okay. Right? So like eventually you're just like removing cards until finally you're trying to like just like make it so that Jack can't make a beanstalk big enough to get to you.
Right.
That's another way that the Giant can win, is just by making it impossible for Jack to win. But yeah, just a weird game. But an interesting kind of like 2-player, it's just a deck of cards. Like there's literally nothing else in the box. Yeah. Just a deck of cards, but it's pretty good.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it has, if it doesn't outstay its welcome, it sounds like it has a spot.
Yeah, it can be over, like, especially if somebody doesn't see, like, oh yeah, you could just move this stack of 4 and now you got fee, fi, fo, fum. Like, the game can be over pretty quick.
There you go. Okay, so next on my list, I got this game in my Easter haul, and it's an older game, a 2016 title, Valaria Card Kingdoms.
Ooh!
So I just missed this when it came out. I was a big fan of Machikoro back in the day. I really enjoyed that whole idea and had a lot of fun with that game. And then I just missed Valaria Card Kingdoms. I didn't know what happened, and then as I started, looking for games that I had missed, this kept on coming up, and I was like, oh, I could do with another light game that still has, a fun theme or whatever. It is one of those things where Valaria, it doesn't fit nicely into, it's like a gateway plus, but the people that you would play it with because of its theme, which is like a medieval fantasy theme, most likely you're going to be able to play something heavier with them anyway. So it's interesting to know if you're willing to just kind of blow off a little steam, have some fun. This game is excellent. So what I love about Valaria, so basically what you're doing is you're building a card kingdom with citizens, and the citizens all correspond to a dice number. And when you're the active player, you're going to roll your dice. Here you're going to roll 2 dice. And each individual dice, those cards are going to activate, and the combined value, that card is going to activate as well. So you get like a lot of activation. There's like a lot of action going on. You're getting a lot of resources. And then this does the classic thing of, like in a deck builder, when you had Dominion, and then Ascension came along, and they were like, okay, now you have money and attack power. That's what Valaria did with Machikoro. It was like, and now there's monsters. So you can buy citizens and you can buy monsters. And then it adds these domains which have scoring opportunities as well as ongoing abilities. And that was a cool dimension of the game too. So I just really enjoyed everything that Valaria added to the Machikoro concept. and I think it plays smooth and fun. It is one of those games where if you're playing with someone, I played a game of this with a couple of buddies, and one of the guys he was taking it too seriously.
Right.
He was min-maxing things like right from the get-go, and it was like, we can just play this game. Like, just play it. Mm-hmm. Just have some fun. Like, when you, Pierce, and I played, I felt like we just played, and it was pretty fun. Like, let's not take a like 1.7 weight value game too seriously.
Right.
Let's just have a good time. So I really enjoy it. I'm excited to get back to the table, have some more fun with it.
It was good. I would definitely prefer this to Machikoro. I don't know if I like it more than Space Base, but
I only do because of the theme I prefer.
Right, and I can see that for sure.
And I like the domain stuff.
Right, you start out with some like base cards. And you can buy those cards in the like you start with a peasant, you can buy more peasants, but like there's just way better cards out there. Like I don't know why you would ever go and buy another peasant. Like it's fine for what it is, but it's like buying more copper in Dominion. Right, like it's kind of like, why would you do it? But yeah, no, it's a kind of neat experience for sure.
Yes.
Then I went to a guy in Unity was having a birthday party and he invited some friends over to his house for a board game night. And so there was 4 of us at the table, and we played a game of Ethnos.
Oh,
another game that I haven't played in a hot while.
Right, there's nothing wrong with Ethnos.
Yeah, it's when
I played it, I sucked at area control, and I started to it was being the bane of my existence. But now I'm like, Ethnos is rock and roll, man.
It's got the kind of the Ticket to Ride-esque thing where on your turn it's even less than Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride, you get to pick 3 cards on your turn. Ethnos, you're picking 1. Like you're just going around one card. So the turns are extremely fast.
Right.
It's just like you're just going around the table, just picking 1 card at a time until finally you get like a set either of the same color or of the same species, tribe, whatever the different like skeletons and elves and hobbits and stuff, and then you play them all down, and then if they're bigger than your last stack in that area, you can like put an extra token and like add to your control of that area, but you also put like a leader on, and the leader gives you certain abilities. It's very simple. Like you say, you're just drafting cards from like a little market, and the market grows. Like sometimes there's like no cards in the market, sometimes there's 20 cards in the market. But you're just taking cards, playing them down, and there's dragons that show up at random points, and then the game's over. Yeah. And so you never really know when the game's going to end, and you're like, okay, well, how many more elves can I try to collect, before the dragon shows up and ruins my day? But it's a solid like entry level game for, the only thing would be like maybe the fantasy theme. Yes. Maybe it's not like something you bring to like, Christmas. House. Grandma's house on Christmas Eve or something like that. But it's a solid offering, and went over really well.
Yeah, so this has been rethemed as Archeo Society, and it seems like the consensus is just that it's not as good because they did a kind of substantial change with like how the area control, or it's not even quite area control anymore.
Okay,
but all the kind of systems are still the same. But people seem to be just saying, no, Ethnos is the way to go.
Really? Okay.
So, I don't know. Maybe you have a different opinion.
Cool.
Okay, so a little while ago, while we were recording this video, 2 rude priests called. They decided to hassle us.
Right.
And one of them decided to make fun of me because he caught wind that I played this game. He caught wind that it'll probably be my best of the month.
Probably.
Ha, 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 ha. This is Mombasa.
Wow, you played Mombasa?
I played Mombasa.
Man, I'm jealous. I wanted to play Mombasa for so long.
So here's the thing. So Mombasa fits into a category of board game that, like, this is at Dave's house, and this is Dave and Father Dan's. Like, this is their weight, this is their jam, this is everything they know and love and do. And so when I come into a game like this, I know that I'm kind of punching above my weight class a little bit. I'm kind of like, okay, I need to work my brain, I need to think. And a first play isn't usually going to go well. So this is a classic experience, and my first play did not go well. And it left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. But as I thought about it afterwards, I was at this board game convention, and Mombasa was up for auction. And I went pretty high. I went up to $43 or $46 for Mombasa. Got bid out.
Wow.
But I was in it for Mombasa. I was like, no, I want this, and I want to give it more go. I want to have more time to play this. So I didn't love it off the shop, but I knew that my lack of love for it was just my own struggle. There's this card mechanism here, and Dave says that's very similar to Blackout Hong Kong, the way these cards work.
Okay, yep.
So basically what you got going on is you have these cards, and then you have a deck of cards that's all available to you except for the cards that are above your player board. So at the beginning of the game, your board tells you what cards are going to go from your deck to above your player board. And so they're going to be there. Then you're going to play cards. At first, you're going to play 3, and then you have options to unlock those 2 more card slots.
Right.
And that was my downfall. Is just like, I didn't have a strategy to quickly unlock those card slots. Duh. Like, of course you're going to do that.
Right.
But I just didn't do that. So, just stupid mistakes throughout the game.
Right.
But basically, you're going to play those cards, your cards out, and then at the end of the turn, you're going to put those cards directly up into the card slot that's immediately above and above your player board. And then you're going to take 1 card stack back. So you're losing cards from your deck, and then they go into limbo, and then yes, you can get them back, but if you're not savvy about where you're putting them and how you're going to get them back, and if you're not thinking ahead a bit more than I normally do, it wasn't working out, man. And there's this whole deck building aspect where you're able to purchase new cards to add to your deck. But then there's also a bunch of other things to do. It's hard to manage all the things first play, where to go. But there's some really brilliant ideas in this game. And at the heart of this game, this is a stock game.
Okay.
No one owns a particular company. You're just buying stock into these companies by taking their trading houses and putting them out on the map, and you're moving up the value of these stocks as you go, and you're gaining stocks in these particular companies as you go.
That's cool. I'm looking forward to playing Skylines one of these days.
Yeah.
Or
Mombasa.
I've wanted to play Mombasa, and I love the card mechanics in Blackout Hong Kong. And what you're describing sounds similar, maybe with a few different differences. But I really, really love, although in Blackout Hong Kong, I don't think it's necessarily worthwhile to unlock those extra slots.
Okay.
So that's interesting. But, but yeah, cool. Yeah, so I was with, we were doing Pierce's top 10, and his number 1 game, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the video, you should go back and watch it.
Go!
Stop now. Was Splender. But he had the expansions. I've never played the expansions of Splender. This is another same thing.
Cities.
Old classic. Me and Father Dan played this game like to death. Like we played this. There was a time when we were playing this almost every time we got together as just like a nice intro filler to the night. And you know what? At least the one expansion that we played with, I think it was the Cities expansion or whatever.
Yeah.
It's good. I think, it makes Splendor better. Some of the other, it's like a kind of a multi. You can play with one of them. You can't play with all of them at the same time, but you can like choose which expansion you want to play with. I think some of them sound more intriguing to me than others. But this is still a good game. I think Father Dan got rid of it at some point because he just didn't feel like, even though we had played it a ton, he didn't feel the need for it anymore. I think with the expansion, it's a little bit better, and I would consider still keeping it around for sure.
Oh yeah, like I think Splendor just keeps on moving up for me, and just like, yes, keep it around, play it every once in a while, have a great time. And this Cities expansion, so we played with the Cities module from the Cities expansion, and it barely changes anything, but it makes a huge difference in my mind. So basically what the Cities expansion does is it gives you these endgame goals, so like different endgame conditions. And you can kind of choose between 3 of them which you're going to go for, or a certain number are put out for the player count, and then you go. So instead of just 15 points, it's like 12 points, but you also have 2 white cards, 2 red cards, 2 blue cards, and 2 black cards. And so if you get that condition and you have the most points, you win the game. I just loved that focus. I have never played a better game of Splendor personally than that game.
You're right.
Because it gave me just a little more direction than usual. I had to spread out, which is always beneficial in Splendor to do, and I always try to do it the hard way.
That's right.
And so I just was doing that, and it just, I loved it.
No, it definitely makes it better. Like, I think I would cities over nobles is just, the way to go.
Yeah, that's right.
For sure. I think some of the other ones are worth, at least one of the other ones sounded kind of interesting.
Yes.
But yeah, cities was a good experience for sure.
So after playing Mombasa, Drew, Dave, and I play San Juan just to kind of cool off the night there.
This is just old-timey. This board game is straight out of 1995, man.
That's not that old, I think. So San Juan, Father Greg has played this with Dave, so it's featured on the channel. This is a card game version of Puerto Rico. And kind of a cousin to Race for the Galaxy. It's like a lighter version of Race for the Galaxy. And I never played this before, and when you would describe it, I couldn't quite get a handle on what we were talking about, because you have these buildings that all produce different goods.
Right.
But that doesn't mean jack.
That's right.
Because it just produces a card.
That's right.
Right? So the different types of production buildings come in because there's other buildings that will score you for different types of production buildings you have and whatever else. And the production type does correspond to how many cards that produce will produce you when you do that particular action. But basically, on your turn, you're going to pick a particular phase or action, and then you're going to get bonus for picking that, but then everyone gets to do that. You're just going to go around the table and pick things that people haven't picked before, and you're going to play cards. Your cards are going to let you draw more cards. And the cool thing, of course, is that your currency is the cards. So you have a handful of cards, you want to play some of these down. You're racing to like 12 cards, and whoever has the most points wins. But in order to play cards down, they have a cost on them, and the cost is in cards from your hand as well. So it's that classic, I love this decision in any game I play. I love this whole idea of, in order to play cards, you got to get rid of cards from your hand. So which ones am I going to play, and which ones am I going to get rid of? And I can't keep them all. So this was a fun little game. I really enjoyed San Juan. Think it's great. Worth having. I just picked up a copy of Race for the Galaxy at the auction, so I'm excited to try that out and see which I prefer ultimately. But
right. The next game I played was Bomb Squad Academy.
Hey, there you go.
And there you go. Bomb Squad Academy is a classic push your luck game. There's 3 bombs, and they've each got different length of timers on them, and they show you like the probability of like, there's 3 zeros in this deck and 2 1s and 3 5s and so on. And so you're like picking a card and hoping the bomb doesn't explode.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get little tools that will allow you to peek at the top of the card, or you can like spend an action to look at how far down the fuse you have left to go and so on. So just a classic push your luck game, but good. A nice fun, light, just immediate. Yeah, just push your luck, see if the bomb explodes. Hopefully it doesn't.
Sweet, and it might.
That's right.
Right in your face. Okay, so we had a small group meeting. So my church small group, we met, and we do an icebreaker whenever we meet. And someone brought out just one.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, that's a great icebreaker.
That's right.
And so it actually worked really well. We didn't play with the official rules of like you playing 13 cards.
Right.
It was just each person in the group just took one turn, and we just kind of had fun with it. But again, just one. It is so much fun to see how people think. You have one word that a person is trying to guess from all of your words. You each write a word down, a single word that's not that word, that will give them a clue as to what the word they're trying to guess is. But if you chose the same word as anybody else, then you have to erase your words. And only the clues that were singular get to be shown to the player. And oh man, so much. And like people are like, what? Like we had Ford, and I was just like, Ford? Truck?
Right.
And then someone else was like Harrison. And I think that
right.
I got it there, right? It's fun. It's just really fun to see what gets people to where they need to be and all that stuff.
Well, it's funny because an example like that, I think oftentimes you don't want to put truck because you're like, well, surely somebody else had put truck.
Yes.
So what else are they going to put? So like you try to think of something really obscure and then nobody puts truck and you're like, why did nobody put truck?
Yeah, so a big strategy of mine is I'm banking on people thinking like that. So I'm not going to pick the most obvious clue, but I'm going to pick the second most obvious clue.
Okay.
Because I'm like, but people are trying to be creative, so I'm going to kind of stick to center here and see. And it works out for me most of the time.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's a great game. Very easy to explain. Like you can play as with anybody's grandma.
Yeah, man. This is Grandma's house.
That's right.
This is Christmas at Grandma's house.
You know, it's not maybe a game that you want to bring to Grandma's house at Christmas. I was over at Mary and Dallas's house, and once again, this guy showed up.
Listen, I'm being invited.
That's right. That's right. So yes, they're like, oh, by this time they did tell me before he showed up. They're like, oh, by the way, Dan's coming over.
Yes.
It's like, oh, okay, great. So I decided to set out Blood Rage.
Now, here's the thing. This is my copy of Blood Rage. I owned
That's
this
right.
freezer. It's
You
not
did.
mine. It's yours.
That's
but
right.
I owned it. Father Greg bought it off me, and he painted all the minis beautifully.
Oh.
And so it was this really wonderful experience of playing a game I previously owned and having this weird, just kind of like, it was very nostalgic.
Right.
It's very nostalgic because that game, that first game I played of Blood Rage, was the game that made me just sell it to you. Because I was so mad how you won that game.
That's right.
That I proceeded in this second play of this game, 7-8 years later, to employ the same strategy that you employed.
And almost
And
won.
I did pretty good.
That's right. That's right. So no, Blood Rage, I recently kind of did get back into painting minis. I haven't painted minis in a while, and just things are busy and life and it's crazy and stuff. But I was like, man, I should... Blood Rage. Yeah, I haven't played that game in a while, and I don't want to get rid of a game when I've got put that much effort into painting it.
Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
like, I have to hold on to this game until the day I die, because what else am I going to do with it? But yeah, this is just fun. It's just big, giant dudes. I'm always a sucker for drafting the monsters, because who doesn't want this giant fire troll to show up on your board with his big, huge sword that's like the size of 8 Vikings? You know, they're absurdly large, but yeah, this is a card drafting game. This is like this hybrid of Euro game with just dudes on a map, just explosion, which of course Eric Lang has become kind of famous for at this point.
This was his first foray into it, and really I think it's still like speaking from an objective standpoint, you might have preferences for the other titles in kind of that series, but Blood Rage is the best mechanically.
Right, I think I would go for sure. I haven't played Ankh, but I would choose it over Rising Sun. I mean, I enjoy Rising Sun as well.
Yeah, for sure. No. Nothing bad about those other games.
Right.
But this it was inspired. It's an inspired design.
That's
just
right.
how the rage resource works, how it all comes together. Just like even the fact that when you're going to battle, there's limited spots in each region for you to go. That makes a person like me just breathe a sigh of relief, where it's just like, I don't have to worry about this like sneak attack of like 20 troops out of nowhere, where
That's
I'm like,
right.
where did you get those?
That's
Like
right.
you can do a little bit more reasoned and measured deliberation about what can happen on the board. And this cool thing where, like, at the end of each round, there's a Ragnarok that takes place in a region. So the map kind of gets smaller and smaller as things go. Like, there's so many good things to like about this.
And I think what intrigued me, and the first time I played it, I was horrible at it. I was, like, losing the game miserably. And then it was, like, halfway through the game, I was like, is losing in battles actually a strategy in this game? And so then I started just taking a bunch of cards that benefited from losing battles, and I ended up winning that game.
Yes.
But this is a game where you will soon find out that your army is just way worse than everyone else's.
Yes.
And then you're just like, okay, I guess it's time for me to start tanking.
Yes.
And just be willing to lose guys for the sake of getting points.
Yes.
So I like that idea that there is, in some sense, like a runaway leader problem. There is this kind of idea of, yes, one player will be way, way stronger than you, but that you have this option of but I can still get points by losing battles. And what are you going to do? You still want to fight me.
Yes.
But you don't want to kill me.
Yeah, that's
So
right. That's
have
right.
fun.
and it is fun. It's tactical in that way because it is a card drafting game that you can employ one strategy one round, and then the next round you can employ another strategy.
Right.
You can be like, okay, I kind of just I went with all I had last round. I'm not really coming in with a lot this round. Maybe I can draft some of those low-key cards and rock and roll. It's fun that way. It's
Right.
I mean, there are certain cards that kind of carry over from round to round, so you might want to build a particular strategy. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it.
Cool.
It resurrected Blood Rage onto my top 100.
Yeah, nice.
Yesterday, I was at a board game convention, and that's where I played the next 4 games.
Cool.
3 games or something. So, played Nova Roma. Okay, so this is a new game from the same designer as Endless Winter, Paleo Americas. And
You've been trying to get me to play that game for a long time.
And I still haven't played it myself. But the Miko does the art. This is a time where I like the Miko's art in this.
Right.
He's hit and miss for me. He's also Valaria. I like him in Valaria. Anyway, doesn't matter. Nova Roma. So, you've played Trajan. If you played Trajan, you've played Nova Roma.
Okay.
That's not meant to be a criticism. That's just an awareness.
Right.
So, this is a game where you have a central action selection mechanism. And then surrounding this central mechanism, you have a bunch of kind of mini games around the board that you're hoping to score victory points with. Now, here's the thing. When you look at this game and the teach first happens, you think that if you were to pick up this design, it would all crumble very easily. You know, all the desperate parts would just float away and crumble. But it holds together sturdy, boy. Like, this is a solid design. This design is really good. So the core mechanism, what you got going on, is you have a grid, and you're going to add your workers to this grid one at a time. And when you add your worker to a grid, it's going to line up with an action tile up and down, and then an action tile to the left. Like, there's going to be an action tile up top, and then to the left of your dude. And you're going to do that action to a certain power based on how many of your workers are already in that row. And there's also a senator meeple that gets placed that helps you add power. So you can do up to a power of 3. But like, you know, I put a thing here and I'm going to collect resources at a power of 1, but I'm going to go sailing for a power of 3. And then you do those actions, and then the next person goes, and you just keep on doing that. And so very simple, but then your brain is hurting about should I build buildings? Should I go sailing and fulfill some contracts? Should I figure out this little resource grid on my little personal board? And then you have this little sideboard that it's giving you goals. So you get randomly dealt out 3 tiers of goals, 1, 2, and 3, that get progressively harder to do. So the goals might be collect 6 shipping contracts. Or collect 5 cards that are either buildings or citizens or whatever, you know? So just different things that you're trying to do. And when you accomplish one, you can take these little hand icons and you can put them, hand tokens, and you can put them on that spot. And the hardest ones are going to score you 5 points at the end of the game for every one you complete. The middle ones are going to score you 3. The top ones are going to score you 2. But then they're also going to score you points for completing rows and columns and stuff like that. So that's a nice little, again, a guiding principle to just kind of help you out. It says, here are the things that you want to do to keep yourself straight. And I appreciate that. But you know what? There's nothing wow about this game. It is solid. It is fun. Like there's no reason to not play this game. For the people who are kind of criticizing this game for being nothing new, they're right. But it's a good nothing new.
That's right.
It's a very good nothing new.
Yeah.
So Nova Roma, pretty solid.
Cool.
Worth a try for sure.
Cool. I've never played Trajan, but I would have to give it a shot. I went over to Mary and Dallas's house, but the Stanley Cup playoffs are on, and Dallas, for some ungod knows reason, loves the LA Kings. So he decided that he was going to watch hockey. So me and Mary played Mr. Jack.
Nice. That's great.
So somebody had lent it to him. I don't know who. And
he keeps on stealing games from me.
That's right.
Led is a very loose word.
That's right.
He goes, hey, I'm taking this. Okay.
So Mr. Jack, is a fun game. It's interesting. We discussed a little bit afterwards, and this is a common thread, I think, on Board Game Geek and stuff like that. Just the win-loss rate, who's more difficult. And I think for sure when you're learning the game, Jack is more difficult. I think the detectives are going to win. Now, Bruno Catala on Board Game Geek, at least in an old thread, said maybe it's 60-40, but he figures it's no worse than that, at least from the games that he's played.
Yes.
I don't know if that's true. I kind of went through my own stats, and maybe it was more 70-30, you know. But
experience will change that for sure.
That's right. That's right. And maybe if you get really, really good at it, and you maybe there's kind of a secret, secret thing that I'm not thinking about. But I almost think you could limit the turn, like instead of playing over 8 hours, you could like limit it to 6 hours.
Yeah.
Because if the time runs out and you haven't caught Jack, he wins.
Yes.
So just like a way of making it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I think you could do that, and that would probably balance it out.
So 4 of us sat down to play Kuntahora.
What the heck is this?
And so this game, talking about desperate parts and it all coming together nicely, this doesn't come together as nicely. But the game experience is still solid. Still a solid game experience. Okay. So this is a CGE game. And so really solid mechanisms, kind of unique thing. But this is an economic game through and through where you have a fluctuating market. There's a bunch of resources. And so it really plays best at 4. I don't know why you would try and play this with anybody, with any other player count. But basically at the beginning of the game, people are dealt out random sort of stocks, if you will, but just like resources. Like I was like the meat and wood and mining guy.
Right.
And then another guy was civics, beer, and something else. And in a 4-player game, 2 of each kind of resource get dealt out amongst all the players. And so you always have someone that's sharing what you have. And so then you're limited to only building those types of buildings. And you're going to build those out on the map. And when you build buildings, they're going to change the values of selling and buying those resources, and whether you're able to build a wood building anymore or not, and all these kind of things. It's automated by these like contraptions that slide, and a deck of cards rotates in behind them. And I was just happy I didn't have to worry. Once everything was explained, so you're building buildings out on a top board, and then there's a bottom board where you're building on mining tiles. And so there's an area majority thing happening in the mine. And then there's kind of a tags for points thing happening with the buildings. So you build a building, and then your building has a tag on it, and then it's next to a building with that same tag. That building's going to score a point per tag that matches the tags that are on it at the end of the game. So you're just trying to build a network of tags in your buildings there, but then you're also building buildings just in order to increase your production, which is going to get you your income. And the core kind of action selection mechanism is you have a hand of cards, and the cards have 2 actions on them, one on the top, one on the bottom, and the cards flip upside down. And so you play 2 cards on your turn, and you're going to do 1 action from each of the cards. That's fun! That's fun! Just a nice little limiting, like, okay, I need to build this round, but I want to use both my build cards for the other actions right now, but okay, so I can only use one of them. So I'll just do income once, and then I'll do da-da-da. It's fun to figure that all out. So very tactical in that way, and so I'm that's my strength, and so I did quite well in the game. Ended up getting second. Ryan beat me by like 2 points. So I was like, oh. But at the beginning of the game, I had no idea. I had no clue. The learning curve is pretty steep. And it's kind of like, oh, this is a mess. This is just a crapshoot here, boys. Like, I don't know. But it comes together pretty quick, and you start to figure out, oh, okay, if I do that, and if I get this in place, and if I do... But it was just for me, it was like life. Well, I'm going to build a building and see what it does. Like, there's all these buildings, and every building has, like 6 icons that it, like, gives you. And ultimately, like, 3 of them don't actually mean anything. It's just like, oh, the tax goes up 1 for everybody, or like this. But it looks like a lot. So I was just like, okay, well, I'm just going to buy one that I can. Oh, hey, that got me some income. Great, sweet. Fun game. A game that I'm not necessarily... I'm not going to go out my way to buy it or get it played myself, but if it was being played again, I'd be like, yeah.
Well, then the Los Angeles Kings were losing real bad that night, and it was just getting ugly. So Dallas finally came downstairs, decided to play a game. So I decided to bring out Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth.
Wow.
And they like D&D, so I was like, this is kind of your characters, there's skill checks. You know, You're moving around the map. You're trying to. It's kind of fantasy. You know, it's in the same genre kind of thing. And so I was like, this will be great. It went over okay.
Oh.
I love Journeys in Middle Earth. I think it's great. I think we had a bit of a harder time. And one of the things that the app, because it's like an app-driven game, and so I have like all of the expansions. So even though we were playing like say the first scenario, the app will just like automatically bring in things from the expansions into it. Like even though it's the first scenario, so you can play the first scenario and then buy a couple expansions and replay the first scenario, and it's going to be very different because you're going to see like new monsters, but the monsters are more difficult. So we actually got
that's usually a plus.
That's right, but we kind of got our asses handed to us. Like, we failed the first mission miserably.
Sure.
Like, in most kind of cooperative games, usually you expect to, the first mission to kind of be like, okay, yeah, you passed this one. Good for you.
Yeah.
What's nice is that you never have to redo missions. Okay. You just automatically go on to the next mission. Maybe there's a little penalty or whatever, but like you just move along, right? Yes. It's kind of like that's it. But so we'll see if we complete, like, a campaign is maybe like 6 something missions.
Okay.
So we'll see if we play it again. It didn't wow them, but I still like it.
Yeah,
it's still
interesting.
A favorite game for me.
I usually hear great things about it. So, yeah, The Veil of Eternity. So I bought this game. So I have it in shrink over there, and I am glad because this game is good.
Oh, okay.
Good game.
I thought you were going to say this game is bad, and I'm glad I still have it in shrink wrap so I can just sell it.
No, I'm glad I own it because it's great. So online, people are going to compare this a lot to Seasons and kind of call it like a light, streamlined Seasons.
Oh.
And I think it is exactly that. I think that's exactly right. Basically, this is Pokemon, the tableau building game, okay? So you have all these elemental creatures that come out on the board, and then players are going to draft these cards, and these cards are going to then... you have the option, when you've claimed a card, you have the option of selling the card, and the type of card it is going to determine what it sells for. And you're only able to have like 4 money tokens in your possession at a given time. And so there's 1 values, 3 values, and 6 values. And so if you have 4 ones, that's what you can have. Like, you can gain a 6 and then you have to get rid of one of your ones or whatever. But like, you got to work it out. But so maybe selling a card will get you 4 ones, or maybe selling a dragon card will get you 6, like 1 6. And so you there's some limitations in the currency, and then you're going to use that currency to summon your creatures. So you either sell it or you tame it, which means you just bring it into your hand for free. But then you have to spend your currency to summon it and put it in your tableau. And of course, it's all the things that a tableau building game is. It's, at the end of the round, if you have less than 6 cards in your hand, gain 2 points. Or at the end of the round, gain a $3 token, or whatever the case may be. Or play this card and immediately earn 8 points and destroy a green spirit from another player, and all that stuff. But again, very much like Seasons, it has this neat thing that depending on the round, that's how many cards you can have in your tableau. So in the first round, you can only have 1 card in your tableau. In the second round, you can have 2 cards in your tableau, and so on and so forth. So you kind of feel that push and that crunch as you go. It's fun.
Yeah, okay. I'm confused. I thought Seasons was already fairly streamlined. So.
No, but like Seasons has all of this like element currency, and it's like valued at different times depending on the season or where the cubes are around the board, and you play your cards out in different phases and whatever. This just kind of...
Well, then we had just this past week a board game night with our altar servers.
Okay.
So picture like 5 kids from like 10 to 13, and that kind of, they're all boys, and so it's a wild, they have like attention spans of like 10 seconds.
Sure.
But the first game that I played, had already set up for them, was Sheriff of Nottingham.
Oh, nice.
So I was like,
nice.
Let's see.
Those cheaty buggers.
I call it Customs, the board game.
Yes, that's right.
You're just passing. Who hasn't lied at Customs, That's right. Do you have anything to declare? No, I do not. So yeah, you just pass by. I've got 4 eggs, four apples in this bag, and there's a crossbow in here. How the hell did that get it? Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Sheriff. That'll never happen again. I swear.
Here, take $20.
That's right. And yeah, just a great fun game.
Yeah, that's right. Fun. That'd be fun with that crew. That's
for sure.
Cool. Okay, the last game I played this month. I wish after playing all these great games, I wish I could say I ended up with a banger, but I finally got back into my collection for a real cheap price. Smash Up Up with a couple of expansions. And
You bought Smash Up?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I have had this game. This is a game that I've actually managed to sell. Like, I've gotten rid of this game. I've gotten rid of very few games.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
My board gaming life.
So you know what? Smash Up for me is this guilty pleasure. Where, okay, here's what Smash Up is. Smash Up is a game that does what it does as best as it can do it, but what it does is pretty messy. Right. So it's a cool thing. Like, it's a cool thing. You have these bases, and these bases have limits, and you're going to play minions onto these bases that have number values, and once those number values from all the players that played to a base adds up to the base's break limit, it's going to break, and then whoever has the most minion power or other power associated with that base, they're going to get a bigger point value, and then a medium prize, and a low prize, and then you're just going to keep on doing that until you get to 15 points. Awesome concept. But it gets fiddly, and it gets long and drawn out when people are just taking other people's minions off of bases, and the base limits aren't breaking because everyone's just attacking each other. And so what I discovered was that you just got to play this game, like, you just got to tell people, break the bases. Like, that's the point. Like, you just got to go into this game. And so what I did, and Sarah also has a pet peeve about this game taking too long sometimes. So her and I were just we were playing with lovely people. And so it had nothing to do with that. It was just, we knew that we wanted this game to have a positive impression on them. And so we didn't really talk about it. We weren't doing it we weren't playing badly. We were playing well. But we were playing in a style of like, let's just
go as fast as possible.
Let's just get these bases broken. So like, I was breaking bases to get second place prizes, but knowing that I could get a first place prize over here. So so there is some strategy here where you can just like give away a battle for the sake of kind of moving minions off and getting people to focus on some different things and whatever else. And so I enjoyed my play. And like, the reason why Smash Up has stayed in the board game zeitgeist is just, who doesn't want to smash flying monkeys and ghosts together or whatever, right? Like, that's fun.
Oh yeah, when I started board gaming, and I started buying games, Smash Up was like always at the top of my wish list. Because I was just like, this sounds great. Oh my gosh, I get to pair ninjas and pirates together and fight dinosaurs with lasers and stuff. Like this sounds awesome. I can't imagine how this could ever be bad. And then I played it, I was like, wow, that took way too long.
Yes, that's right.
I was like, it just, but yeah, like I felt bad getting rid of it. But then I was like, every time I played it, I was just like, no, I don't feel bad.
No, so again, I feel very happy. I had a great game of Smash Up last night.
That's great.
It was everything that Smash Up should be.
Wow.
And it was just a great time. And so Smash Up for me is like, I wanted it because I knew, it's like Imaginarium. It's like KFC.
Yeah.
Where you just want it every once in a while. Right. And then you're like, but then you come back around to it.
Cool. I got a game off my wall of shame. It's a game that I have owned for I don't know how many years, and I've never played it. And it has been in my collection. And it's by Van Ryder Games, which they've come out with they came out with Hostage Negotiator. I quite like that. It was like a solo only game. And they did like Detective City of Angels. That was probably their biggest success. Sure. They produced like a series of like graphic novel kind of adventure, kind of like choose your own adventure sort of books that were great. Final Girl is like in that. So like a small board game company, but that I've come to respect some of their games. But this game's called The Big Score. Oh. And this game is like Ocean's 11, the board game. You're running like a bank heist.
Like a big con.
That's right. So you got, basically there's two parts to this game. There's two halves. The second half is just a classic kind of push your luck game where you're robbing the bank and you're just reaching into the tokens. Everyone's pulling them out at the same time. And if there's police, then like the police arrive and they bust you and you lose everything. Okay. So it's kind of like Ink and Gold, where it's like, how long do you stay in the bank? Or do you just choose like, no, I'm good. I've got my diamonds. I'm out of here.
Sure.
You guys can stay and you guys can just enjoy when the police show up and bust you. But the first half is like, I don't know what the mechanic is, but like guessing what your opponents are going to do. Yeah, so like basically there's a job on the table, but it requires like 2 con men, 3 drivers, 2 muscles, and a hacker. Yeah. And so like you've got 3 of those. Maybe you got the hacker, the muscle, and one of the con men. But like, so you play to that job just hoping that the other players are going to play to it as well, because if everyone if all the requirements are fulfilled, then everyone gets the payout.
Okay.
So the idea is like you could put all your eggs into one basket and kind of guarantee that this job's going to succeed. But you could also put like one guy in 6 different jobs and then hope that they all succeed, and then you get 6 payouts, which like obviously is way better. So it's a little bit like kind of push your luck, sort of like how much are you willing to push. But with the Elder Servers, like say you give 13-year-old kids like a choice of like, I just had it like as one of the available options, and it was like they were like, a game where you play as bank robbers? Sweet. All right, cool. You know what? It's a good game. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it is what it is. It's a push your luck kind of guessing game. But it does what it does well. The theme is fun. You're just going around robbing museums and getting your points are in the millions. Like the winner had like 1.3 million points.
Nice.
So glad I got it off my wall of shame.
There you go.
Finally got a play of it.
All right, there you have it, party people. Those are all the games that we played in the month of April. Let us know what you think about all of our plays, and let us know, again, what you've been playing in the month of April. And so, without any further ado, we're going to tell you what our favorite board game we played this month was, in fact. And for me, Father Greg, Blood Rage.
Wow.
Blood Rage. It's got to be Blood Rage. That game is solid. It delighted me from start to finish. And again, part of it has to do with the fact that playing a game early in your gaming career and just feeling very out of the water with it, and then coming back around to it and being like, oh, I know everything this game is asking me to do.
Right.
This is fun. Was just great.
That's cool. I was going to say Blood Rage too. But, I don't know. I'll say Far Away.
No, okay, great.
Sure.
Because, far Away would be, yes.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that one. But.
Yeah, no, great games. Okay, party people, there we have it. So, if you like this video, please press that like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until next time, party people.
Have the best day.
Yeah!